Dave, a 30-year-old man without a job, works all day on a cardboard maze. He claims to be an excellent artist, but in the first scene, he has never produced anything useful. We have shown a recorded portion of Dave's interview, in which he claims that he constructed the maze to demonstrate his competence. When Dave's girlfriend Annie returns from a trip, she notices a massive structure made of cardboard boxes in her living room when she calls for Dave. He also regretfully accepts responsibility for the people who died as a result of it. The movie then flashes back 3 days. He tells her that he built the labyrinth by himself and welcomes her back home from inside the box. Honey was turned on by you, and she excuses herself and goes to the bathroom. But when she comes back, she finds Dave still inside the box. He tells her that he has been working on the box all weekend and that he has lost his way. He also reminds him that the box is just cardboard and that he can easily get out of it by knocking it over. Dave, however, asserts that the structure is significantly larger from. She continues to enter, but Dave prohibits her because he doesn't want to tear it down because it took him so long to build. She starts shaking the cardboard boxes, asserting that it is too risky and frustrated. In any case, this makes the things inside the construction fall over and Dave begins shouting. He relents after pleading with her to stop. You're going to make me come. However, she continues to insist on entering. Annie, who has become concerned at this point, suggests that Dave dismantle the structure and forbids her once more, claiming that she will be lost in the situation. When Dave inquires about how long he has been inside the cardboard, he is informed that it has been 3 days. Davis, on the other hand, is determined to find a different route, so Annie calls his friend Gordon for assistance. After some time, Gordon comes over, and Annie explains everything to him from inside the box. Dave also mentions that the maze is still incomplete, so no one should enter yet. Then, it says that he started from the center and built outward like a seashell, which explains how beautiful the structure is. When Daniel Gordon and I talked about the situation, Daniel Gordon said that Dave often starts something and doesn't finish it. They also ponder the location of his internal feces. When Dave overhears the conversation, he responds that he has not eaten in 3 days and expresses concern. So Gordon attempts to lift the cardboard. However, just at that moment, things begin to violently shake, as if there were some kind of machine trapped within the maze and unable to escape. However, Gordon decides to seek assistance from their mutual friend Leonard. He calls other people in the end. Harry, the journalist, and his crew siblings drag Brent over ecstatic Jane, among the others. 2 tourists from Belgium and a homeless man because of the obstacles and booby traps. Dave advises everyone against breaking into the maze or entering it. Leonard is irritated by this, and he decides to go back home because Dave won't let him help you keep your boobies to yourself in the next scene. He starts to worry, and Dave apologizes to her for putting her through this. He says that he misses her, and she is upset, but he says that he misses her. With him, she concedes that she also misses him and he at last has had enough and she chooses to go inside the labyrinth to bring him out. When the others learn about Annie's adventure, Harry begins filming everything for his documentary. Once the group enters, everyone realizes that Dave was lying and that the structure is much larger than it appears from the outside. Gordon also gets a taste of the maze when he accidentally cuts his finger and his blood is strongly absorbed by the homeless man decides to keep Annie company. While Harry and his crew follow Annie and Gordon around, cardboard floor Jane and the others begin exploring the maze on their own. They look for Dave, but soon realize that the maze is more complicated than they thought. Harry comes across a wall button that warns against pressing it as they try to find their way through it. However, he casually presses it, and Gordon is struck by a ball the following moment. The group then comes across a hallway that leads to a musical room with keyboards painted on the wall, but they discover that they can move through the dark keys into the wall. The group is led by the wall to a pit filled with paper scraps, where 2 origami birds are watching them from the balcony. Soon, one of the birds lunges at them, sending everyone into a state of panic. The room door also closes, and Annie begins to look for a different way out. Annie is shaken by the ordeal and struggles to cope with the fact that the origami are alive. Harry tries to film a reaction on camera, but Jane quickly interrupts them. She notices a huge face sculpture on the wall and helps everyone escape through its mouth. When Jane rushes into the room, she exclaims with glee that she is having a great time exploring the maze. However, she accidentally steps on a bobby trap, which causes the trap to activate, separating her head from her body to everyone's horror. Instead of blood, confetti is spelled out of Jane's body as she witnesses this. Casina cuts to Greg and Brian playing hide and seek in the maze by themselves as everyone panics and leaves the room. Greg must, regrettably, in the process, inadvertently sets off yet another booby trap, trapping him between a spiked grill and the wall, instantly killing him. Brent is horrified to discover his body, and to make matters worse, Annie is splattered with a strange pink substance somewhere else. As a result, Annie begins to become irritated and asks Dave why he built the booby traps. Gordon explains that the maze would simply be a series of articulated hallways joined by a terrified Bryn without the traps. She takes everyone to the scene of his death and reveals what happened to Greg. In any case, to everybody's bewilderment, Greg's body is found absent and a path of blood and monster strides are driving out of the room subsequent to looking at the scene. She decides to cut a hole in the cardboard wall with a knife to free everyone from the maze, and lo and behold, Gordon discovers that the footsteps belong to a man-eating, bowl-eating, half-human monster named Guy Fieri the Minotaur. Gordon has had enough, and she decides to do so. They hear loud noises as the wind starts to blow. He eventually succeeds in stopping her from slamming the wall open while they are trying to stop her. Only to discover that a different room on the other side of the wall is detecting the approaching danger. Annie and the others rapidly adventure into the room, however something grabs the eye of Bryn and she remains back. Afraid for their lives, the group flees the scene and eventually meet Dave. He leads them through a small door that leads them to a strange room with a table and chair made of cardboard paper. After reaching safety, the group gets into an argument and everyone blames Dave for their situation. Dave mentions that he warned them not to enter, but he promised to get them out. He then requests that everybody follow him into a mysterious entryway. But he leads them through a pipe, making them look like cardboard characters. Annie and the others ask Dave for clarification, and he assures them that everything will be alright once they return to the apartment. However, the giant appears. Immediately, Dave leads the group out of the room, prompting them to flee for their lives. This time, when they cross the tunnel, good things happen. They all emerge in their usual states. The Minotaur also follows them outside, but Dave builds a temporary wall to keep him out in the next scene, where things get even worse. When things get out of hand, everyone steps up and reveals that they must finish building the unfinished maze in order to escape. Everyone wants to get out of the maze, so they start arguing with each other. Dave reluctantly agrees, and as they try to find a way out, they come across an odd wall. Annie, on the other hand, refuses to let him continue, and instead orders him to lead them out of the maze. Dave makes the surprising observation that he does not recall building it, while Leonard returns home and enters the maze as well. Sadly, as he walks away, the Minotaur's actions and Jane's severed head are the first things he notices. It is demonstrated that a massive origami insect is clinging to his back. Dave takes Andy and the others to the entertainment room somewhere else. After showing them some traditional British entertainment, he takes them to a strange room with a strange opening on the wall. However, any of the others are drawn to it due to its hypnotizing effect. When the others don't pay attention, Dave shows them his hand and warns them to stay away from it. Which, after he inserted it into the opening, turns into cardboard, and the group continued their journey only to discover that the maze had begun to grow on its own. Overwhelmed by the strange occurrence, Stable misplaced it and pleaded for everyone's assistance in killing the giant so that he could finish building the maze and, sadly, return home. Even in such a terrible circumstance, Harry suggests recording Dave's interview for the documentary, which Dave reluctantly accepts. The group rejects the idea. However, during the interview, he spills his guts, revealing that he despises himself for being a 30-year-old without a job and still relying on his parents for everything. It turns out he built the maze so that others, including his parents, could see that he is capable of doing. When he apologizes for the people who died in the maze, he also causes him to become emotional and promises to assist him in exiting the maze. The gathering then, at that point, begins pondering the departure plan again with a newly discovered interest. Gordon noticed that since the labyrinth is some way or another alive and developing, it should have a heart which they could find and kill. Dave concurs and says that everything generally has a point of weakness. However, he regrettably did not construct one for the maze because he did not want it to be destroyed. Gordon responds that Dave did not complete the maze because you cannot fail if you do not complete anything. However, Annie empathizes with her boyfriend and asserts that failure is an inevitable part of life and that everyone must deal with it. She then encourages him to construct the chrysalis so that they can demolish it and escape once more, following Dave and the group. They come across Brian, who had been killed earlier, as they begin to explore the maze. She is now tied to the wall and transformed into a paper towel. Brent requests high fives from the group. However, despite the fact that they were aware that it was most likely a trap, they refused to give her any. Dave and Annie continued to search for their destination while Gordon and the rest remained behind to distract Bran. In the subsequent scene, David and Annie walked for several minutes until they come across a dark tunnel. The movie then cuts to a scene in which Dave and Danny are having a conversation, in which Annie continues to play the role of a successful woman while Dave continues to do the same, remains a bum. They remain content to be together in the gloomy tunnel despite the constantly shifting circumstances. After the couple finishes building the center of the maze, he uses a sword to cut through the cardboard wall. Gordon and others noticed, so they immediately tied Brent up to keep her from attacking Annie. However, Brian transforms into a huge hand and retreats back into the ground. The cameraman is drawn into the situation, but not before he heroically throws all of his equipment at a young boy. The rest of the group then goes to join Annie and Dave at the center. Gordon, on the other hand, is cut off from on their way there. Dave sets up the heart while Harry and his team capture the heart coming to life as he is chased by Annie, the gigantic Minotaur. Gordon continues to be pursued by the Minotaur, at which point he witnesses Leonard being killed by cardboard blades back in the center of the maze, where Dave destroys the heart with his sword. Finally, the whole thing starts to fall apart, and the group comes out of the garbage. Everyone is safe now. However, Dave is upset that his hard work has been destroyed. Harry encourages him by stating that at least he can look forward to a documentary. Friends gave their lives for you. After cleaning the mess, the group throws the leftovers outside, where armed men emerge from the scrap with an origami bird ready to exact revenge on humanity. Turn on notifications. Please subscribe for more videos like this one, and like the channel to support it. Thank you for watching.